International Business Case Presentation of the day, proudly presented by Nexon. Thank you to our judges, Scott Chalker from Nexon, Gail Gall from Nexon, Julie Goss from the Richard Ivey School of Business, Con Lee from PhD Bilton, Brian Peacock representing CPA, and Victor Thomas from Aspen Medical Canada. Competitors will have a maximum of 20 minutes to present. Immediately following the presentation, judges will have a total of 5 minutes for questions. I will show time cards at various intervals to indicate the remaining time and will stop any speaker who exceeds the maximum time limit. No questions, comments, cell phones, or picture taking will be permitted from the audience. The audience will only be permitted to applaud following the question and answer period. The audience is banned from any material that bears the name or symbol of a competing university. We ask that the audience exit the room immediately following the question and answer period. Competitors, may begin when you are ready.
Ni hao, senior executives. My name is Brittany, this is Syed and Taryn, and we are Team L. We are so excited to talk to you today about going beyond profits and how pink is the new black. But first and foremost, thank you so much for coming to Saskatchewan today. I know this weather isn't familiar to you, but we hope that you're enjoying it nevertheless. So our recommendation here is to grow internationally. You should enter the potash industry in Canada through a joint venture agreement. This agreement will give you $19 to $20 billion of profit in 20 years, an ROI of 12.5%, and an NPV of $3.5 billion. So financially, it looks pretty good for you. Diversification of your operations is key. You don't want to put all of your eggs into one basket. If you diversify, if anything is to happen in a volatile market, it'll really set you forward and create a competitive advantage for you. It decreases your exposure to changing coal prices, and it develops a highly demanded product. And lastly, it builds an international reputation. This will globalize your operations and really help you build those international relationships that will help you grow further into the future successfully. I will be going over the situational analysis followed by the key issues. Syed will then take over with the recommendation. Taryn will finish off with the implementation and risk mitigation. So you have an innovative culture and vast experience, which has really strengthened your position as an industry leader. Your innovative processes have created that competitive advantage for you, and it has driven higher economic returns. International experience in culturally distinct markets does position you very well for future expansion, such as in Australia. So you already are international, which is very important. A focused acquisition strategy has allowed for rapid growth, expanding your market share. This is important, especially with commodity prices being very volatile. However, a lack of diversification has weakened future sustained success. So with this being said, a strong focus on coal does expose you to those commodity prices. So diversification through our recommendation will help you out here. A lack of experience mining other resources does present operational challenges. However, we strongly believe that our implementation plan has mitigated this weakness. And lastly, long transportation channels increase costs and limit your profitability. With diversification, creating these partnerships, you will be able to increase your transportation channels and possibly shorten them as well. Moreover, dynamic economic conditions and cultural challenges do threaten the future of the mining industry. So it's important to look elsewhere in case anything is to happen. The decreasing attractiveness of coal does limit the potential for growth in the industry. So natural gas is starting to come on the rise right now. So looking into coal, the demand has decreased a little bit in the last few years. Volatile resource prices do lead to an unpredictable market and uncertain returns. These uncertain returns can be mitigated through diversification, and cultural differences do pose a hindrance to international partnerships. We do believe that our recommendation that we will share with you today will mitigate this as well. Fortunately, changing societal concerns and a growing population do present opportunities for diversification. So this rapidly growing population does require greater architectural capacity, which increases the attractiveness of the fertilization industry. It's really important to look elsewhere because you do want to go beyond profits. If you look at the fertilizer industry, the fertilizer is helping grow food anywhere, and we all need food to live. So going beyond profits by feeding people. The increased purchasing power of emerging economies does create more buyers for resources. So that's something to consider as well with diversification. And innovations in technology do improve efficiency and mining practices. You are already extremely innovative, and we believe that this will set you apart from the rest of your competitors. You must go beyond profits to address the needs of your diverse stakeholders. The first stakeholders here that we address are partners. If you're going to have a joint venture agreement, you need to have those partnerships. You need to be able to create those relationships. They want access to strategic assets, and this implies that you build relationships and stress the mutual benefits for both parties. If it's a one-way joint venture, it's not going to work, so you need to address the concerns of your partners. Your customers are also stakeholders. They want affordable, high-quality product and a reliable supply. This really implies that you need to pursue new supply markets, such as potash, hint, and build a global distribution network through this diversification. Your board of directors wants to increase that shareholder value, and they want to increase it through growth. So you need to pursue a strategy of international growth and pursue product diversification. I can't stress enough how much this will set you apart from your competitors. Foreign governments are also a stakeholder to look into. They want to maintain control of strategic resources and create a net benefit for the Canadian economy and Canadians. So you need to form strategic partnerships with local companies and implement policies of community engagement and development. You don't want to come in and it seem like a foreign company is taking over, so you need to have that community development, that community engagement, and that will be discussed in our implementation plan. Now, to do all this, you need to address the current issue of if and how you want to grow. So, what must you focus on to create your future success? Here we looked at productivity and growth. In productivity, you're already very productive, so we did not see that being an issue. Growth here is your main concern. Should you grow organically or inorganically? We do not believe growing within your company is very viable at this moment, so growing inorganically through a joint venture will help you move forward for future success. And should you grow domestically or internationally? Well, this depends on what resource you want to exploit, whether it's coal or potash, such as the information you gave to us. We believe that the potash resource and resources in general, domestically within China, are not sustainable for long-term future success. And so we think that you should go internationally because there is a broader scope of resources there for you to exploit. Now, after this issue is addressed, there are further issues that you can look into. The primary ones here are sustainable growth and international diversification. Secondary are country and organizational cultural differences, which will deal with your human resource department. Pursue partnerships to access assets, so again, that win-win between the partners in the joint venture. Environmental concerns are on the rise, so it's very important to look into this. And some tertiary ones are those Aboriginal concerns within Saskatchewan, market volatility, and further diversification. I will now pass it off to Syed, who will go through our recommendation.
Thank you, Brittany. And once again, shishya to you, Senior Executive. We really do appreciate you taking the time to join us today. I understand that it has been a long day for you, but we really do believe that we have the recommendation for you, and that's what I'm going to go over today. First and foremost, we have an opportunity present for you today, and that is how can your company grow internationally while maintaining profitability and operational efficiency. As you can see, there are a number of ways to pursue this opportunity. I'll let you read through that real quickly. And then the green highlighted path is really the path that we believe is the optimal way for you to pursue this opportunity. As Brittany mentioned, we believe that you want to pursue a joint venture in Canada through the pursuit of potash resources. And now I'll go into a breakdown of why we believe this is the path for you to take. First and foremost, as Brittany mentioned earlier, this is very profitable and a lucrative project for you. You can gain upwards of $20 billion in profit over the next 20 years. And also this will really diversify your brand into new markets and new products. We believe that with the downward trend that coal is showing, we believe that potash is really a viable market for you to enter. And by doing so, we really believe that you'll be able to position yourself as a global leader in the resource industry and really differentiate yourself from your competition and set yourself apart, not only from your competition and in terms of profitability, but also going beyond profits, as Brittany mentioned earlier, and showing that you are willing to invest in fertilizer. And lastly, as I mentioned earlier, it will address evolving environmental concerns in the industry by showing that you want to enhance the fruition of agriculture. You're showing that you really do want to minimize the impact that resource companies are making through mining. And now, first and foremost, why do we believe that you should choose potash? There are a number of reasons for this. First, as I mentioned, coal is losing its attractiveness as a resource. There is a higher trend towards environmental sustainability, and if you go further into coal development, you are doing a lot of mining, and there is a lot of damage being done to the environment in that case. And furthermore, there is a large demand for potash across the globe. As you mentioned in the information that you gave us, China in and of itself is expecting almost doubling demand in the next 10 to 15 years, and we really believe that this is an opportunity that you should target. Furthermore, we believe that the high market prices that are present within the potash industry really strengthen the profitability. It is a very small industry in terms of the players that are in it, and we believe that by entering this market, you'll really be able to improve your own profitability. And again, furthermore, going beyond the profits, we believe that you can develop sustainably, not only through moving yourself beyond just the coal industry, but showing that you are willing to invest in agriculture and really help out not only yourself, but the community as well. And with that being said, as I mentioned earlier, there are a number of avenues for you to take when pursuing potash. There are a number of large reserves located in countries like the United States and Russia. However, with that being said, we don't believe that the conditions in those countries are very favorable. With the United States, we noticed that they are just coming out of that recession, and it's not a very favorable business environment. And with Russia, there are issues with corruption, and you never really know what you're going to get with that government. So we believe that by going with Canada, it is a stable environment for you to enter, and really probably the safest bet for you to go into. And with that being said, there are largely underutilized reserves already in Saskatchewan. You mentioned in the information that you gave us that there's approximately 23 million tons available for use, while only 9.1 million tons of that is being produced. So we really believe that there is room for you to enter and grow your brand within Saskatchewan. And lastly, you do have past experience with a similar culture. When you entered Australia with the coal mining ventures, you experienced a lot of success. And according to Hofstede's Dimensions of Cultures, Canada and Australia are very similar in terms of the cultures that they possess. That's why we believe that by going into Canada, you'll be able to not only experience a positive business environment, but also a positive culture environment, not only making this a success for yourself, but a success for the Chinese people and the Canadian people. With that being said, we don't believe that it's very viable for you to go into Canada on your own, because A, you don't really have the resources to be pursuing an entirely new mineral extraction project, and B, we really believe that by partnering with a Canadian partner, you'll be able to show the Canadian government that you do want to do more than just go in there for your own profits. The Canadian government does have a policy that they want to make sure any foreign investment that is coming in provides a net benefit to Canada, and we believe that by partnering with someone, with a local company, you'll be able to show that you are willing to work with the Canadian government rather than against them for your own profits. Furthermore, this will ensure the pursuance of joint goals, because you don't want to make this a one-way partnership, as Brittany was mentioning earlier. We do want this to be a happy ending for your company and for Saskatchewan as an economy, and for their companies as well. With that being said, there are a number of assumptions we made with regards to our costs and profits. However, if you want to ask any questions with this, I'll be happy to answer them. The big picture, however, being, as Brittany mentioned earlier, over the next 20 years, you can expect about $19 to $20 billion of profit for an ROI of 12.5% if you were to invest in this project. With that being said, we believe that a viable goal for you to pursue is gaining about a 10% market share in the potash industry over the next 15 years. And further to my point of making this a two-way relationship, we really believe that there are benefits for all parties involved here. For yourself, you will be able to diversify your products, as we mentioned earlier. You'll be able to reduce some of the risks that are related to having almost 95% of your revenues related to coal. And furthermore, you'll be able to access Canadian reserves. Potash is huge in Saskatchewan, and we really believe that by entering the Saskatchewan market, you'll be able to show your shareholders that you are willing to take some risks in order to maximize their value. And lastly, for yourself, you'll be able to gain the local expertise. We understand that you don't really have a lot of experience within potash extraction, and we believe that by working with local companies through that joint venture, you will really be able to maximize this experience for yourself. With that being said, your Saskatchewan partner is an important stakeholder in this. We really believe that you can make them happy with incentives for them as well. First and foremost, you are a massive company relative to most of Saskatchewan's corporations. You do have the financial resources to back them up if they need any kind of assistance. Furthermore, you have a lot of research and development. As Brittany mentioned, you do really emphasize the innovation as seen through your LLTC programs, and we really believe that you can share this with the Saskatchewan partners to make this a beneficial relationship for them as well. And lastly, it will protect them against future volatility by having an internationally established partner such as yourself. And lastly, as everyone knows, the customer is the most important stakeholder, and we really believe that, excuse me, by entering this partnership, you'll be able to offer your customers a stable supply of potash, not only in China, but moving forward, hopefully internationally, and will also be an ethical product, as you will be moving on from coal mining and really directing your focus on ethical and environmentally sustainable extraction within the potash industry. With that being said, I would like to direct your attention to Taryn now, who will show you how we're really expecting you to implement this plan.
Thank you very much, Syed. And thank you again for coming and listening to us speak today. We really appreciate it. So my colleagues have gone over why you should implement our recommendation, and now I'd like to take you through the how of the matter. How will you implement the recommendation? And we really believe there are 3 key areas within your organization that you need to engage in this to ensure success in its implementation. And that's business development supported by human resources. This is due to the cultural differences, not only between the countries, China and Canada, but also between organizations. So it's important to have that organizational fit between the 2 companies. And finally, supported underneath by community development, ensuring that you are going beyond profits in that way. So, in the short term, first of all, in order to access these resources, in order to get access to the contracts, you will need to do further exploration within Saskatchewan to ensure that the reserves that they say are there. And then based on that exploration, that's when you make the bid to the companies that are selling the contracts and ensure that you're getting those contracts. So that's what you need to do immediately, and then this is looking forward once you have those contracts. So in the short term, you do need to start evaluating potential partners to work with, to form this joint venture with, based on their capacity and their experience, so that you do have the right organizational fit. In terms of human resources, you want to start an internal hiring process so that you can find some suitable candidates for expatriation that you can send to work with the Canadian company to ensure that organizational fit. And then finally, in terms of community development, as you are a mining company, you are in the resource extraction industry, you do need to do an internal audit of your environmental impacts and see where there are areas for improvement that you can improve on in the future. In the medium term, we're looking within 1 to 5 years, as these are long-term, into the future projects. This is where you will be sending over a team of expatriates to work with your Saskatchewan partner to build up that capacity in Saskatchewan. You want to monitor the exploration and the initial facility setup, make sure that both of you are on the same page and operations are going according to the agreement. In terms of human resources, you do want to make sure that those expatriates that you're sending over are getting pre-departure orientation. It's an extremely stressful environment to be an expatriate, to go overseas and work, so you do need to stress that. And make sure that you are maintaining formal communication channels so that they can communicate with headquarters. They're getting the most out of the experience, and you're getting the most out of the experience that you can. And finally, in terms of community development, you need to start working with your joint venture partner to develop internal standards, make sure that there are consequences if either side doesn't meet those consequences, and start looking at implementing a land reclamation program. You are working, again, like I said, in the resource extraction industry. You want to make sure that you are redeveloping areas that you have damaged that can't be used anymore in the future. And then finally, in the long term, you want to make sure that you're monitoring the success of this joint venture. We recommend that within the agreement you draw up, you have a time for renegotiation after 10 years to ensure that you are getting the synergies that you want out of this partnership. So based on the success, you can look at renegotiating the agreement. In terms of human resources, eventually we do want to bring that management team back to China. So this is where you want to make sure you have repatriation orientation and ensure that there are feedback channels so that you're getting the full benefit of having those people sent over. And then finally, we think going into the future, it's important to create an internship program for students looking into sustainable development. It's a big field in universities now, and if you can bring that talent into your organization, we think it will really set you up moving forward. So there are some metrics that we have come up with to measure the success of this implementation plan. The numbers are just estimates right now, as we didn't have anything to benchmark them by, and we're sure that you have more knowledge in that area, and we'd love to discuss them with you, but here are some for an example. There are risks associated with this implementation plan, but we do believe that we have addressed the majority of them. The first is that the Saskatchewan partner isn't interested. This is again where you really need to highlight those mutual benefits. Ensure that both parties are getting a win-win situation. Another issue is cross-organizational synergies are not being achieved. This is where there is a time limit to that joint venture agreement that you can renegotiate in the future. Making sure you are thoroughly researching your potential partners. And finally, using expatriates, making sure that your organizational knowledge and goals are being brought over to Saskatchewan. There is the issue of the culture clash and the cartel collapsing, but in the interest of time, I'll leave them up there for you to look at. There are additional considerations going forward. Once you have created this joint venture, once you are starting to reap the benefits of the potash industry, we suggest that you look forward into these considerations. But we really believe in the short term, you should be pursuing international growth in the Canadian potash industry through a joint venture agreement, because not only does it bring you profit, but it also helps you engage with the community and address future needs. So Shia, thank you.
This now concludes the official presentation. Question and answer period.
So on the joint venture, I understand why you want to have one. I'm not sure what you think. I'm not sure how you.
I can speak to that. So here in our appendix, we have a kind of a layout for the joint venture. You would approach a smaller potash company so that they can move forward into your resources and really learn from your knowledge. So knowledge sharing is key in this aspect. You can also discuss the benefits. So stuff that you're bringing to the table are your expertise, your knowledge expertise for one, your global and international outlook, because you are already a global company. And since that you are working on Australia, and Syed also spoke about the hostile cultural differences, they're very similar with Australia and Canada, so you do have a foot there where you can move forward with that. You would then draft a contract outlining the regulations to be upheld with both parties, stating that you yourself will be the operator. As the operator, you can have final say. You will also have a 65% working interest, whereas the other company will have a 35% working interest. This is again negotiable, so you can benchmark whatever working interest you want, and we'll be happy to work with you on that. The small firm and the expats will then work together. So again, that knowledge sharing is key in this aspect. And the joint venture is negotiable up to 10 years. So it does give kind of a scapegoat if it doesn't work out. Again, if you want to make that time frame shorter, that's more than enough negotiable. But we're willing to work with you on that. Does that answer your question?
Do you think we should join Appendix?
So can you repeat the question?
Do we join one of the process?
Oh, sure, I can speak to that. I don't believe that that's a very viable option for you. As your partner mentioned here earlier, that if we were to go with the larger partners, we don't really have much to offer from your point of view, and that they wouldn't really have the incentive to have a joint venture with you just because they are already so firmly established in the potash industry. Does that answer your question?
Kind of.
So
Anything I can say?
just building on that, so if you don't join Appendix, which is the cartel here in Canada, then prices could drop significantly. So your assumptions, do they actually work out?
Yes, so Brittany, if you don't have to go back to the financial side. Yeah, so with this price is, you'll notice that we set the price at $600. Currently, the market rate is about $872, so we have adjusted for the risk that the price does go down. We believe that $600 is a fair price for you to consider to set relative to the cartel prices. Furthermore, the cartels currently operate approximately 70% of the potash industry in Canada. We believe that the other 30% is very easily capturable for a company of your size. Does that answer your question?
Is our work in Australia done? Are we leaving some pretty attractive low-hanging fruit in Australia, or some far lesser?
To that. We don't think you should leave the Australian market.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean leave
Oh, okay.
Australia. I meant there's some pretty attractive low-hanging fruit with the two acquisition mergers. And it just seems like we're right there.
Right.
To just reach out and grab.
Right, and we did consider that. However, we do think looking forward long-term into the future, the coal market is not necessarily the most attractive one to be in, and you do really need to diversify into potash. into another resource so that you're not being affected by future dropping coal prices, less attractiveness for coal as a resource. So we really think that this is necessary for food diversity.
Get a sense of what kind of investment required in this joint venture and how you go about financing?
I can speak to that. So according, if you go back one more second, please. Thank you. So according to the information that you gave us, there is about a bit of a range with regards to the exploration licenses. We set that range at about $200 to $350 million. That is approximately 3 to 5 times the price that the companies in Saskatchewan acquired those licenses for, which we believe is a fair price to set at. And furthermore, we believe that approximately $20 million will go into additional exploration with regards to, with regards to how much you want to really understand where you're exploring. In terms of investing and financing, we haven't really gotten the chance to explore what kind of options you have, but we would love to work more with you moving forward with regards to your capital, your cash flows, and how you look to finance that.